Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Shri Radha Madhav Ju ki, Panchatattva ki jai, Radha Singh jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. No, I got a sensitive throat, and the Chanamrita person thinks he must have a big pile of tulsi leaves. Maha-Aushadhi, tulsi is Maha-Aushadhi. I'm getting old, so I'm criticizing. So they give a big pile of tulsi leaf with the Chanamrita and then drink some water, but it's ice cold. No, it's there, but it's cold. Ice cold, and it's filled up to the top also. So you can't...
You want normal water?
No, yeah, because I get older, I get little complaints. Glories of old age. All right. So we're reading from the Srimad. Is it board? No board, no? What is it? One or two? Eh?
You can keep it in your mouth.
How can I speak with it? Oh, it's like this. Okay. Licorice. Josh Timadu. I like licorice. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 3, text number 32. This is Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Text 32. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Etat Rupam Bhagavato. That's wrong one. 32. Okay, sorry. Ataparam yad avyaktam abhyuta guna primbitam hadrashtu shruta vasudvat Sajivoya punabhavam Ataparam yadavyaktam Abhyudha guna brimhitam Adrashuta vastuvat Sajivoya punabhavam Ataparam yadavyaktam Abhyudaguna brimhitam adrashtuta vastutvat sa jivo yat punah bhava Hatha param yadavyaktam avyude kumritam adrush sajivo yat punah bhava Adrushvatashudha sajivo punah bhava Hatha param yadavyaktam avyuta primhitam adristashruta vasturva sajivo ya punah bhava Hatha param yadavyaktam avyuta primhitam adristashruta vasturva sajivo punah bhava Hatha, this, param, beyond, yet, which, avyaktam, unmanifested, abhyuta, without formal shape, guna bhrimbritam, affected by the qualities, adrista, unseen, ashruta, unheard, vastutpat, being like that, shaha, that, jiva, living being, yet, that which, punah bhava, takes birth repeatedly. Again become a mouse, famous mouse, punah bhava. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape, and it is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond his subtlety, otherwise how he could not have repeated births. Please repeat. Beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond this subtlety. Otherwise, how could he not have repeated births? Purport. As the gross cosmic manifestation is conceived as the gigantic body of the Lord, so also there is a conception of his subtle form, which is simply realized without being seen, heard, or manifested. In fact, all of these gross and subtle conceptions of the body are in relationship with the living beings. The living being has his spiritual form beyond this gross material body or subtle psychic existence. The gross body and the psychic functions cease to act as soon as the living being leaves the visible gross body. In fact, we say that the living being has gone away because he is unseen and unheard. Even when the gross body is not acting, when the living being is in sound sleep, we know that he is within the body by the breathing. So the living entities passing away from the body does not mean that there is no existence of the living soul. It is there, otherwise how can he repeat his births again and again? The conclusion is that the Lord is eternally existent in his transcendental form, which is neither gross nor subtle, like the living being. His body is never compared to gross and subtle bodies of the living being. All such conceptions of God's body are imaginary. The living being has his eternal spiritual form, which is conditioned only by his material contamination. Om Ajnanasmirandasya Jananjanan Shalakayo Chakshurum Nitanjin Tasmai Sri Guru Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Garadha Shivashari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hari Hari Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Beyond the gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond the subtlety. Otherwise, how could he not have repeated birth? So here we're talking about the Vishwarup. We just spoke about the Vishwarup, how he's everywhere in the universe and he's conceived of by the whole manifestation. The sun is the eye of the Lord, the trees and the plants are the herbs, are the hairs of the Lord. So like that we can see the Vishwarup. People worship the Vishwarup. Demigods especially worship Vishwarup because they're the executors of the universal management. That's their business. So many demigods there are. So they worship the form of the Vishwarup because that's who he is, their master. They're dealing with him. So now it's saying that, but there's another conception of a bodily conception, but this one you cannot see it, but it's unheard and unmanifest. But it's here it's Purple Prabhupada is saying that, but there must be a subtle body there, even we can't see it. We understand there is a subtle body there. And if there wasn't a subtle body, then how is it that the jiva is transmigrating from one body to another? It's all done subtly. The gross body is dead. We say dead. He's gone, Prabhupada said. He's gone. Prabhupada said, where is he gone? So my son John, he has gone. So where is he gone? There he is. He's still lying on the bed there. Why you are saying where he's gone? I said, no, he has gone, he has gone. So here's a subtle body. We have subtle body also, mind, intelligence, and ahankara of the false ego. So this is the subtle body, and this takes the living entity when he leaves his body. The subtle body carries him, or under the dictation of the super soul, takes the soul and the subtle body to the next destination. The super soul says, the super soul Paramatma, he says to Maya Devi that now this living entity, it's time for him to leave his body. So you prepare a particular womb, a particular situation, according to his karmas, where he can take his birth. So the Lord instructs Maya Devi, get fashion this particular womb for this living entity, becoming such and such a time is known. Yamaraj comes also with the dogs, and he's around at that time. So they're informed. So then the super soul carries them to the next body. So if there wasn't a subtle body, how would the soul be carried from one body to another? Gross body is okay, we can see it's there, and then suddenly it's dead. But to say there is not a subtle body, then who's going to carry the soul to the next body? Krishna can do it, of course. The super soul can do it. He's doing it anyway. But the subtle body is the one who has all the desires, and he's according to his mentality and his taste. According to his mental condition at the time of leaving his body, he will take that particular body to suit that mentality that you have upon leaving your body. So that your attitude or mental conception at the time of leaving your body is comprised of all the likes and dislikes in the material world. I'm dealing with this world. I have so much experience with it. So all that together, this lifetime, all these experiences determine what your next body is going to be. So then you get the body, which Krishna says is like a machine for paying off karma, paying off your old karmas. And then you get a new body, and the subtle body goes, taking with him all of the previous impressions, the varshanas, and from his previous life. And then he gets a situation where he takes that birth, and he can fall. The Krishna awards him the best body according to his desires. He must deserve, of course. But the subtle body carries all these conceptions. Just as the wind, the air carries the wind. So, so here it's saying that what's happened when we remove the bodies. The gross body, if that's removed, and the subtle body is removed, what remains? Brahman remains. So this is another subtle form. Brahman, aham brahmasmi. So get rid of the subtle gross body, get rid of the gross body, subtle body. Then the Brahman is there, the body of Brahman. So that's our identity, aham brahmasmi. Therefore Krishna said that soul cannot be seen, it cannot be cut, it cannot be burned. He's unborn, he's undying, so many the qualities. So this is Krishna then is talking about Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, realizing. So that's the third shape, the form of Brahman. And it's a form of Brahman, but there's other forms of Brahman. There's the Paramatma, he's also Brahman. And there's Bhagavan, he's also Brahman. Vedanti tat tatvitas tat jnanamabhyam Brahmaniti Paramatmiti Bhagavaniti Sabdyati. So there's three kinds of Brahman and categorized. Bhagavan is Brahman, but there's unlimited forms of that Brahman. Advaitam Achyutam Anandarupam, there's unlimited forms. Ramadi Murtishu, Kalam Ninatishu, hundreds and thousands and millions of murtis, forms, murti means form, Murtishu, they are coming from Krishna. So they're all Brahman, but variegatedness is there, unlimited variegatedness is there. But in the first Brahman, the Brahmaniti, there's the form of Brahman is there, but you cannot see it, touch it. It's an all-pervading form. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, what form is it? It's just like the sky, you cannot see it. But he said, no, even the sky has a form. He said, what is that form? That shape. When you look up, you see the sky with the eye. It's egg-shaped, right? Your vision is taking an egg shape. So even the sky has a form, egg-shaped form. But Brahman, he is the form of bliss and knowledge, we say. But in Paramatma, he has a form. And he manifests his form beside every living entity, is in the heart, giving him proper dictation and guidance. And then we have Bhagavan. And he has so many unlimited forms for his pleasurable pastimes, and how the devotees like to serve him as a friend, as a parent, as a lover, as a servant. So Krishna fulfills all of these desires by avenging himself in different incarnations. So I'm going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam with a commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur. By Bhanu Swami, H. Bhanu Swami. Prabhupada told him to write and research the Gaudiya, specifically the Gaudiya teachings. And anyway, he got the order from Prabhupada to write the Gaudiya literature. So it's the same shloka I'm reading from. 1.332. Translation. Superior to the gross universal form of the Lord, which is not invisible, which is superior to the gross universal form of the Lord, which is invisible, devoid of specific bodily parts, since it cannot be seen or heard. Like this is like the subtle body of the jiva, which is the instrument of rebirth for the jiva. Commentary. Just as yogis worship the visible form of the universe, the Lord, even though it is material, other yogis worship a subtle form of the universe of the Lord, even though it is also material. These forms are described later. The wise do not accept these two forms of the Lord described by me because they are composed of matter. Subtle form and the gross form, they're both material. The devatas such as Indra are his arms, the devatas of the directions, and the organ for hearing arises from the ears. Sound arises from his organ of hearing. The Ashwinis and the organ for smelling arise from the nostrils. Fragrance arises from the organs of smelling. Flaming fire is his mouth. So this is talking about the universal form, how he is, the different demigods are situated as different parts of his body. And so Indra is the arms, the devatas of the directions, the organs for hearing arise from the ears, the sound arises from the organ of hearing. So like that, in the universal form, they're trying to wake him up. In the beginning, he's sleeping. And the devas come to wake him up. So they enter into his body, just like the Ashwini Kumaras. These are in charge of fragrance. So they approach the Lord and enter the Lord with the organ of, with the nose and the facility of smell, the sense of smelling power. And yeah, so you get the nose, the organ, and then you get the quality, the smelling substance. So they enter the Lord and wake the Lord up. There's two creations, or three, even more sometimes. Two creations being described. Anyway, this one, the demigods, they enter into the Lord and try to wake him. And they enter the nostrils, I think. And then the demigods, the Lord who is sleeping, and they're trying to wake up. He imparts the power, he imparts the nose, the organ, and the smelling power. He gives to that particular demigod, so that particular demigod, then he's invested with that potency, and then all the jivas, bound jivas in the material world, then he has that potency to invoke that smelling power within the devatas. So the devatas get their potency from the Lord, and then they can do their duty as devatas to give everybody a nose and a sense of smell and like that. So eventually they wake the Lord up by consciousness. When pure consciousness, everyone else was trying to wake him up. When the pure consciousness, Vasudeva, enters into him, then he awakens. Vasudeva. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Everything, Vasudeva is everything. So then they say that the Mahatattva is his chitta. His chitta, intelligence, understanding, consciousness. The Mahatattva is his consciousness. Rudra is his false ego. So even God has a false ego in his universal form. God has a false ego. That's Lord Shiva. In the Krishna book, I think it's anyway, Krishna's having a fight maybe with Bhaumasura or someone like that. And naturally Krishna defeats everyone in battle as usual. And then Lord Shiva and the other Devas, they come and they're offering prayers to Krishna, how great he is. And Lord Shiva's offering very nice prayers to Krishna. And he says to Krishna, as far as I am concerned, I consider myself to be false ego, your false ego. Because they're approaching the Vishwarup. As far as I am concerned, I am your false ego. So even the Lord, the universal form, has a false ego. Otherwise, why we would have a false ego? Aham Sabhasra Prabhu, everything is coming from Krishna. He has a false ego, is coming also. So false ego is a junction between spirit and matter. In Brahma Samhita purport of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that false ego consists of the stupefying potency of the Lord. This means Maya. Maya has covered us and we become stupid. Last purport. Someone gets in, Prabhupada says it may have been yesterday or the day before, or maybe tomorrow. Anyway, the president gets in the car and he drives off, and they go, oh look, it's the president. They don't see the president, but they identify the car as the president's. That's stupefying potency. We become stupid. We're identifying, I am this body, I'm a woman, I'm a man. It's my mother, my father, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Christian. All this moila. But I am not this body. So who is my mother? Who is my father? Who is my relative? Who is my wife? Who is my child? So stupefied, we may become stupid. We think the car is me. So, yeah, and the limited, another portion, we're talking about false ego, three aspects of its constitution. Okay, that's a stupefying potency of, that's Maya. Maya is. And a portion of non-plentitude means that we are lacking. We need knowledge, for instance. Otherwise, we wouldn't be gathered here. Lacking knowledge, potency, and next potency is Krishna. Oh, little bit of the ecstatic cognizant potency. This is actually Haladini Shakti and Chit Shakti, cognizant. That's in the false ego. I got a lot of false ego, but I'm not experiencing a portion of the ecstatic cum cognizant potency, Haladini potency and Chit potency. Otherwise, why would we be attracted to false ego? Why you are running after women? Why you are running after men? Why we are running after money? Why we are? That false ego is a little bit of ecstatic cum cognizant pleasure potency is it. Otherwise, why would we be attracted to Maya? So that's there, a little bit of spiritual potency is there. That activates it and makes everybody, yeah, I'm this body, this is my enjoyment, objects of my enjoyment. So I race around the universe trying to have a good time, birth after birth, millions and millions of births. Yeah, under the Lord's capturing illusory power. There's a nice verse in the second canto. And it says that Yamaraj, he's the god of death. So these are representing the Lord's jaws. Jaws, Yamaraj, he represents the jaws of death. And these teeth, her teeth, this is the great illusory energy of the Lord, manifest, all-pervading energy. It's represented like his teeth are the art of affection, and his smile is his smiling is the affectionate glance. His eyes are glancing with affection. So Prabhupada said, he said, the Lord, he smiles affectionately. He's throwing his glance, his affection, he smiles. Showing his teeth. Very poetic way Prabhupada said it. And showing his teeth. In other words, the Lord's smile, when he smiles, that's the illusory energy. You become captivated when you see the teeth, the beautiful teeth. That's the art of affection. You became very much attracted. And what happens? You see the beautiful smiling face of the Lord and beautiful attractive teeth. You go to there and what happens? You go into the mouth of Yamaraj and the jaws of death. I like that. The way Prabhupada wrote it is really nice. Those who understand this, he said, they'll become surrendered persons who understands this. This is what we're dealing with, the illusory energy of Maya. And how she's so attractive, and that attraction is our death. And we just thought we were chasing after something attractive. And it turned out it was not at all attractive. Hare Krishna. So, the Lord smiles affectionately, showing his teeth. I like that. Yeah, the subtle forms. Yeah, so Rudra, Lord Shiva is a false ego. When Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham bija pratapita, I am the seed-giving father. But Krishna says, I don't touch this material energy. But in Bhagavad Gita says, I impregnate the living entities with my glance. All the living entities, they are my living entities, they are my parts and parcels. And Krishna says to Arjuna that all these living entities are mine, created by me, and I am the seed-giving father. So Krishna said he is the father. Ham Picha Pata Pita, he is the original father. We cannot deny it, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. But also Krishna says that he doesn't touch the material energy. So how can he be the father of all the living entities? I impregnate all the living entities into the womb of nature. I am the seed-giving father. But how can he be father? Krishna be father because he doesn't touch material energy, is transcendental. So how he contacts is through the false ego, Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva, he touches the material energy. That's why he's considered like yogurt. Milk and yogurt, same thing. But you add some curd, a little bit of acid with it, it'll become yogurt. It's milk, but it's become yogurt. None different. So this is Lord Shiva's position. He is like the yogurt. It's not like milk. It's not exactly not milk. But Shiva, he touches the material energy. And who is the material energy? Daga Puja. We're just having Daga Puja now. So she is the wife of Lord Shiva. So therefore, there is nothing wrong. Shiva impregnates his wife, that's all. He is the marginal potency, the potency between spirit and matter, the junction of spirit and matter. So, what is happening is that Shiva is enjoying Maya, his wife. His wife is Maya Devi. Is there anything wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. So, but what is, it's Krishna's potency. Lord Shiva is an incarnation of the Lord. So when he says Aham Vijaprajya, I touch the energy, I touch in the form of Lord Shiva. Krishna is speaking, he's on the battlefield, he's on the chariot. He's saying, I impregnate. But how? As Lord Shiva, in the form of Lord Shiva, Krishna does this, he impregnates in the form of Lord Shiva. So, because therefore he can touch the material energy because she is his wife. So, but he is an incarnation of Krishna, he's a Guna Avatara. And Maya Devi is his wife. And she is a reflection of a Haladini potency. Krishna has one internal potency. There's an external potency known as Maya, but it's not different actually. for the original spiritual potency of Krishna is the Haladini potency, pleasure potency. Krishna has unlimited potencies, but his favorite potency is Haladini. That's why everybody likes pleasure. Whatever anybody does in this world is for pleasure. So we all like pleasure. So that's the originally it's the Haladini potency. It reflects in the material world as Mayash. And so Shiva is the incarnation of Krishna. So he is Krishna. And Durga Devi is the incarnation of the internal potency. The internal potency is Radharani. Her reflection, her shadow becomes Durga. So what Lord Shiva is doing, he is Krishna in the form of Lord Shiva. He's enjoying Radharani, who is in the form of Durga. So it's because of this a little bit of Haladini potency, the pleasure potency, that we are attracted to something because we have adopted this ego of Lord Shiva, which is Krishna's real ego. Bhoktaram Jagatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwara. I am the controller of all the planets. I am the enjoyer of everything. Bhokta, I am the enjoyer. So we want that position. The purpose of life is pleasure, Anandamaya Bhasha. We are searching for that pleasure situation. So the living entity is covered by the false ego Shakti, the potency. So that's Lord Shiva. So we're adopting Lord Shiva's identity. And he's identifying himself as the enjoyer of Durga, which he is. And so when we as individual persons, we go to try to enjoy this material world, so apparently we are touching. It feels like we're touching, but actually Krishna says the living entity thinks himself the doer. He is not the doer. Activities are being carried out by material nature, but it feels like I'm the doer. It feels like I'm the enjoyer. So the living entity is covered with false ego. So he's identifying like that. And so when the living entity tries to enjoy in this material world, these objects of the material world, they're all Durga's objects. They're all manifestations of Durga. So the living entity is trying to enjoy Durga, who is the expansion, material expansion from shadow energy of Radharani. So we are trying to enjoy with this, as the enjoyer, Bhoktaram Jagatapasha. I'm the enjoyer and I'm enjoying. So that's Krishna's position. So we're, due to false ego, we're identifying ourselves as a joyer and we're enjoying. Durga, or the Haladini potency. So what is happening is that Shiva is enjoying with Durga, and we are under his impression, under his potency, Shiva's potencies, we're also covered by the false ego potency and identifying with Lord Shiva. And we are supposedly enjoying material energy, we are touching material energy. But actually it's not, Shiva is touching material energy. And because Shiva is he acts as a masculine principle, is Shambhu. So he's touching the Durga, which is the reflection from the Haladini Shakti. In other words, we are falsely thinking that we are enjoying material energy. Lord Shiva said it's his position. In other words, there's nothing in existence nothing in existence but Radha and Krishna. Radha and Krishna's pleasure. The ultimate Lord Shiva is Krishna, he's an expansion of Krishna. And the Haladini potency is Radha. So when we go to enjoy the Haladini potency, we're identifying ourselves as Krishna through the false ego, through the enjoyer. And what we're touching the material energy, which is invested with the Haladini potency, which is Radharani. So there's nothing in existence except Krishna approaching Krishna and Radha. And the different ways it's manifested. But originally, the original relationship, Radha and Krishna, is they're the origin of everything. So that's their position, Radha and Krishna. They are the enjoyers of this material world. But nothing in existence except Radha and Krishna. Krishna is enjoying Radha. We identifying ourselves as the Lord, as Krishna, we're enjoying the energy of the Lord, which is expanded from Radharani. So ultimately, there's nothing in existence but Radha and Krishna's pleasure. Krishna is enjoying Radha. So this is the characteristic of Lord Shiva. In Mayapur, Lord Shiva, in here, Rudradeep, the island of Lord Shiva. So here he is, Lord Shiva is a bhakta. He's not acting under the impression of his false ego identity. Here he is bhakta, he's a Gauranga bhakta. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a darshan of Lord Shiva here in Rudradeep, and he saw Lord Shiva, he was boom, boom, Jai Sachinandan, boom, boom, Jai Sachinandan. Deliver all the living entities, be merciful to all living entities, give your mercy to all. The island of friendship. You get Lord Shiva as your friend, you have no problem. Boom, boom, give all living entities your mercy. This is his form as a bhakta. His other forms are very strict forms. But so that's the position of the demigods, and the relationship with the Lord and the enjoyers. and the universal form. The gross body of the jiva is his false designation for enjoyment in this world. Why do we need to make another false designation? Because by this subtle body, the jiva takes repeated births, involving leaving the body, entering a body, and remaining in a body. This will be impossible without a subtle body. These forms are unlimited to the Lord. These forms are attributed to the Lord, but are not actually the Lord. Because both the gross and subtle bodies are material, and their souls are the jivas. They are the jiva's individuality, and collectively, it is said, the universal form of matter, Hiranyagarbha, and the form of the collective jivas as the cause of the universe is false. The state of the Supreme Lord is said to be devoid of such limitations. And the Bhagavatam says that both these forms should not be worshipped, as quoted above with Amuni Bhagavata Rupe. So the gross forms of the Lord should not be worshipped, and the subtle forms should not be worshipped, because they're both material. So what should be worshipped is spirit whole, that is Krishna, and his devotees, like Lord Shiva. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol, Hari Krishna. Yes.
Because subtle body is helping us to migrate or migrate from one body to another body. But when we're practicing Krishna consciousness, what happens to this subtle body? What happens to the impressions? Does it just get deleted?
Can you not speak in the microphone? Is it echoing? When one becomes a pure devotee, what happens to the subtle body? The soul has its own qualities. So it has its own subtle body, the Lord is thinking, feeling, willing. Although Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in one place, the senses also go along with the subtle body. He mentions like that. But generally, Prabhupada says that the subtle body dissolves. It's not necessary for this subtle body. Bhanu Maharaj said that the mind, it goes back into the mind bank. There's a mind bank, or whatever. The way the gross mind is, there's different layers of the universe, so they have, those energies are there, so the layer of mind is there, so the mind can go back to that bank, Maya bank, the mind bank. but when the person becomes pure devotee and self-realized, then the thinking, feeling, willing functions, they come from the heart. In the conditioned state, our senses, sense perception, we see it from the eyes. I see a sense object. It's coming from the senses. You see a sense object, and then you go and you get that sense object and you eat it or whatever you do. But that's not necessary for a self-realized person. His thinking, feeling, willing functions come from the heart directly. They're not coming from Krishna says these are my material energies. Earth, water, fire, air, mind, intelligence, ego. They're my material energies. So, for a pure devotee, it comes directly from the soul, but it appears that he's acting like everyone else and it's coming from the senses that are contacting the sense objects. But actually, it's actually coming from the heart. Yes. Personality? Yeah, they worship it's an illusory form, but they worship it because it's such a vast, it encompasses the whole universe. So they like to chant the Purusha Sukta mantra, everybody does. Oh, that's but their understanding is that it's Maya, but at least we'll conceive of the greatest thing we conceive of is that the universe. That's the biggest thing we can conceive of. Outside of that, we don't know. But it's Maya, so therefore, neti, their conclusion is no, it's not this. Everything they see. Not this. They're looking for that Brahmanam manifest. Everything they see, they say, not this, neti. What it is, they don't say. But what it's not, it's not this, not this, not this. But what it is, they don't say. So the universal form is there. Prabhupada said they worship the universe, but as the greatest form they conceive of it. But ultimately, it's Maya. And Krishna's body is also Maya. So it's all Maya for them. The forms of Krishna, his pastimes, the form of the Super Soul, the form of the unlimited Brahman. I mean that's not Maya. but the universal form. Yeah, ultimate, everything they see is Maya, except Brahman. So that they see the greatest thing, the whole universe. I don't know, there's probably more explanations, someone can. But definitely he says they worship the universe form. But with the understanding it's Maya. Or if they worship the deity, that ultimately they'll merge into the deity. They worship deity, but with the idea of merging into the deity. So ultimately the deity is Maya, universal form is Maya.
The Mayapadis and the unified devotees, they have to worship universal form to just understand that Lord has form. Why?
They worship the universal form and?
Just to understand that Lord has some form.
Just to understand.
Yes. Why they need to worship this universal form? So anyway, they already worship this Brahman in personal features. So why again they need to worship universal form?
Why? Why?
Already they worship in personal features. So why now they again they need to worship universal form? It's Srila Prabhupada recommends in Purpur that Mayavadi and unified devotees they should start their devotional service from worshiping the universal form. So why?
It's easier, they had to have a form there, it's easier for the meditation. But ultimately they'll merge into the deity, they worship the form and then. No, I don't know. I can't answer your question. But it makes it easier to worship a personal form. So in the beginning they worship. Prabhupada said you can see the skyscraper and you're in this New York City or it's not very Krishna conscious place, but you see the skyscrapers everywhere. But you see it's Krishna's energy, Prabhupada said. It's all Krishna's energy. Earth, water, fire, it's all manifested in the form of a skyscraper and things. So even though you're in a big city, you can still see Krishna by his present by his energies.
You said that you should not worship the universal form, like Krishna Prabhupada said. This is material form of the Lord. But the deity, it's also like material form, but we should worship the deity. What is the difference? That this material form, but this form we should worship the deity.
Taste. It may, if they have a more attraction for one approaching the Lord, if they were to say something. It's better for them to follow that, cultivate that.
For us, devotees, we should worship deities. This is also material form. We should worship. So, how so valuable if we should worship this material form but become spiritual?
Are you worshipping the form of the Lord? Because Gyanis, they're taken to the process of Shankya yoga or different types of yoga. And Kapil Muni he's used that system of Shankya, which the Mayavadis like to follow that analysis. And Kapila tells his mother, Devahuti, that one should worship the deity up and until the time that you perceive the presence of the Lord in the deity, in your heart, and in the hearts of others. So if you haven't realized that Krishna and the deity in your heart or in the hearts, if you haven't felt him in the hearts of others, then you should continue your worship. But if you have understood the Lord in your heart and in the hearts of others, then it's not necessary to worship the deity anymore. Because that same Lord you're feeling in your heart. Wherever you go, you can feel him, you can see him. His presence is there. So therefore, it's not necessary to worship a deity in form. He's limited anyway. Your worship is in the temple, but when you find him in your heart, then wherever you go, you can take Krishna. And in the heart of others, you can feel him in other devotees' heart. So therefore, he says it's not necessary to worship the deity. So you worship the deity until that time. You can feel his presence. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki.